Feedback. Feedback. Hi, this is Theo Broughton.
And I am Thabiti Mpinda.
Inviting you to join us each Monday at 9 a.m. for Feedback,
A positive image production by Hood Research.
Encourage others to tune in each Monday on
Comcast Detroit, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, watch WHPR TV Network anywhere.
and take us along with you. Feedback, feedback, feedback.
Well, we are right here at WHPR, WHPS, 160 Victor Street on a nice Monday morning. Happy Monday to all of you, and thank you so much for tuning in to Feedback, a positive image production by Hood Research. And we are going to have a wonderful guest shortly, but first I just want to say good morning to some people. I want to say good morning to Rosa and to Kirk. Kirk has been so supportive. I want to say good morning to Vera and to Ron and Barbara and to Michael. We got to say good morning to Michael. Good morning to Jay, way on the east side. And good morning to Les, way on the west side. I want to say good morning to Tyrone and good morning to Bill, Katrina and Rochelle and Henry and Al and, oh man, just so many of you. We had a good meeting this past Saturday. I want to say good morning to Shirley too. Who do you want to say good morning to?
Shout outs to Sister Cheryl D, Sister Jackie Bowman, also Brother Fred, and I found out, and Brother Eugene, who's a frequent, recently new listener, but I just found out last week that we have a group of people at Fago who listen to us, and I want to shout out Brother Al Taylor. I met your mom, Alberta Taylor, and she told me to make sure I shout out the employees at Fago because they listen in as well.
Oh, okay.
And they happen to be friends of Bruce Simpson, so
Oh, wow.
it makes it all family here.
Yes.
And
yeah.
along with Ruth Ann and both Jackies and Shane. And as I always ask everyone, have your friends, family, neighbors, relatives, co-workers, acquaintances to tune in, and also have pen and paper handy for information you'll want to jot down.
Oh, yes. We always have some information that we have acquired while we're away. And want to let you know, get your pen and paper handy for our meetings on Saturday. You don't have to leave your home. You don't have to leave the comfort of your recliner chair or your bed.
Okay.
But
I'm
on
her
Saturdays
co-host. I'm just going to put you on
at
hold.
2
I'm gonna bring it
o'clock.
Right up.
We have a meeting, and
Okay.
and if you got your pen and paper handy, I will give you the numbers.
Who's on the line?
And our guest has arrived on the phone, and he's been with us before. And for those of you who have lost a lot of sleep over the years listening to, you will know who I'm talking about. I call him the godfather of talk radio. He's from New York, and that's none other than Bob Law. Is there? I hear you.
You okay? Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, I can hear you. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
And happy Monday to you.
Happy Monday indeed. Glad to be with you.
Thank you. There is so much going on, not just locally, but nationally and internationally as well. And I want you to share with us an interest that you have at this time that you want those who are tuned in to know about and to help share.
Well, as you say, there's so much going on. You don't even know where to begin. But if you could, I know that a real concern with everybody, with all the issues that we are dealing with, various issues that are critical, the stealing of homes from black folk, the foreclosure epidemic, the COVID-19 epidemic, the violence, gang violence epidemic, all of these things that are happening that need to be addressed. But I know that right now, overall, people are concerned with this upcoming election
Yes.
that there is a need for regime change in this country. And it is something that people in other countries have recognized as their young people have gone into the street. And their young people have gone into the street in countries around the world. They've gone into the street for regime change. They wanted the prime minister, they wanted the governor of Puerto Rico to step down. They wanted the prime minister to whatever country to step down. They understood that what fundamentally is where the changes have to occur is on a fundamental level. We need a regime change. And so when you look at what's happening here, I think it's important for people to understand that this nation is engulfed in darkness. Trump represents lies, deceit, evil, wicked, and this nation is engulfed in darkness. And Trump and some of his cohorts in other countries would like to extend that darkness all over the world.
Right.
We have a need to come out of the darkness. It is not so much where Trump and Biden are on the issues. I heard some political experts talking about Biden and Trump yesterday on television, of course, and they were talking about how Biden is taking the right path by explaining his issues and what he would do in this country. But these are the political professionals. I think that they are absolutely wrong. That it is not a question of issue by issue. Trump doesn't have a position on the issues. Trump has made a deal with the evangelicals, black and white, to wrap him in a religious cover, and he will give them whatever there was on their wish list that can be delivered politically. And if they would preach anger and fear, and so they agreed.
To preach anger and fear?
If they would preach anger
and fear.
Now, there's a white evangelical who felt like, well, that's the last straw, and so he's the one who broke from them and is telling it, Reverend Schneck, who is telling it.
Oh,
And
yes.
So Trump, and when you hear the Republicans, when you hear Barr, the Attorney General, when you hear them talk anger and fear. They say that people are trying to change our way of life. They're trying to destroy our country. You know, they're calling themselves patriots. And they say that their message is for patriots only. And so they're trying to be divisive. They don't have an issue. They can't say what they would do for this nation, issue by issue. They don't have any plan. They want to remain in office. And they want to do it based on fear. They say Trump's commercials, I'm told, I haven't seen any here in New York lately. I haven't seen anybody on his commercials say, what kind of a country will it be if Biden is in charge? Do you want a country where Biden is in control? See, that's the fear factor.
Okay.
They don't say anything that Biden will do that is bad, but they are saying that just what he represents is bad. And I think that what we have to understand is that it is not where Trump stands on the issues. He'll change his position on the issue at any time, as you've seen. He is bad for the country. He's bad for the world. It's not the issues, it's what he represents.
He's the issue.
And he represents evil. He represents distortions and lies, inhumanity. You know, he's wicked. And I think that we need to understand that this is an opportunity for us to come out of the darkness. We can't get anything done and corrected and fixed. We can't get anything done in the dark. You know, if Trump is still in place and his people, his gangsters are in place with him, we're not going to be able to get anything done moving forward. We'll still be in the dark. In order for us to improve anything, people talk about how terrible his response to the epidemic has been, to the
Yes.
virus.
Yes.
So he can't change that. It's in his heart. He's the scripture describes him as a stiff-necked person. He can't be changed. As long as he is there, we're in the darkness, and in that darkness, we can't address anything effectively. We've got to come out of the dark. We've got to begin to ask each other, what kind of a world do we want? And if you can begin to answer that yourself, if you can begin to answer what kind of a world do we want, then you can see who you should support on every level. If somebody's running for mayor of Detroit, somebody's running for Congress in Detroit, first you ask yourself, what kind of world do we want?
What kind of
What
a world
kind
do
of world
we
do you
want?
want? And when you answer that for yourself, then look at the candidate and say, now, is this person moving toward the kind of world that I want? That'll help you also define who the leadership should be and who you should support.
Right.
See, we have not given enough thought to moving forward. We're waiting for people who want to lead to step up in front of us and say, follow me, this is what I would do. Now, the danger in that is when you don't have any idea of your own what that person should do. And so it is much better if you have given some thought and hear some, and then the person who you're looking at speaks effectively to your concerns, but you have given the thought to what your concerns and what your issues should be. So we have a need to change the whole narrative that is taking place, particularly in the black community. The black community has been hoodwinked into some really terrible narratives.
Right.
We have that strip us of our power. We say that for instance, what sounds reasonable is we need affordable housing. Well, of course we need affordable housing. Everybody in the world needs affordable housing. Everybody needs housing that they can afford. The point is, we should not be working to create, let's say, housing for poor people as much as we should be working to get poor people out of poverty.
Yes.
So that they can afford the house that they want.
Right.
Our
right.
strategy, our narrative is stay poor, and we'll make it easier on you to be poor. We will create strategies and programs to make and that's attractive because when you're poor, you're suffering. When you're sick, you're suffering. So when you're suffering and somebody says, well, listen, I want to treat your illness. Well, yes, you want them to treat your illness. That makes sense. But we stop there. We have to go beyond that to say, how did you begin to suffer in the first place? What made you sick? So maybe we're going to now take out your appendix or give you some colon surgery on your colon or whatever it is we're going to have to treat. However, we want you to, from now on, change your diet. We want you to stop doing the things that made you sick in the first place. And that's the same thing that has to happen on a social and political level. You have to understand what are the conditions that keep us locked in poverty, and let's attack those conditions. And so we need a new narrative. We need to understand that we were created for a higher purpose. The adversary has tried to destroy us, destroy our sense of humanness. The adversary has tried to make a pitiful lifestyle norm. So when we talk about too many fast food restaurants in the black community, 6 times as many as there are in the white community. So people say, particularly the black people who own those fast food joints, they'll say that, but these people are poor; they don't have no food, and so they're lucky to get this. And so we're providing food for poor people who wouldn't have any food otherwise. But that's not true. But what they're trying to do is to make substandard norm in the black community. That stuff is not real food. It's not. It causes, aside from not being real food, chemicals and water and all kinds of stuff in the burgers. That stuff is not real food. But aside from that, it's causing high blood pressure. It's causing type 2 diabetes, obesity, and this is among children. This is obesity and type and among children, diabetes among children, and so rather and the strategy is to make that kind of living normal. When somebody says, "Well, they wouldn't have any food other than that," that's that they are poor, they can't afford other food. So that means that we want to normalize being poor. I want to normalize not having access to quality food, and appreciate the people who bring us the garbage, the poison, the toxic food. You do that once you normalize poverty, normalize normalize poverty and normalize substandard living conditions. We got to change the narrative. You were created for a higher purpose. That's not where you're not supposed to be comfortable poor. You're not supposed to be comfortable. You should be struggling to get and working, not necessarily struggling, but it will be a struggle only because there's opposition. But we should be developing strategies to change the condition of our people.
Bob, one of the things I want to bring out is, the first thing that would help us to change the condition of our people is the mindset. And how do we go about that? Because, it makes me think about how Dr. Claude Anderson had spoken. This really troubled my heart when I heard this phrase, but he spoke about a permanent underclass, which is what we're trying to get rid of. But how do we, through these different platforms we have, approach the mindset? Because until the mindset is changed, all the behavior will remain the same. And if we're put in these desperate situations where, we're ready to have our hands out for this poisonous food, as well as the poisonous literature, poisonous television, how do we go about with the platforms we have to change the mindset and have the people understand what it is that is actually happening to them?
First, we have to change the narrative. We've got to change the whole tone of conversation in our community so that it will therefore renew the mind. But change the narrative. Point out the kind of things we're pointing out right now. Let this be the narrative. We've got to come out of the darkness. So everybody say that. Point out that we are in the darkness, and in order to move forward, and in order to change the condition of our people, first, you have to be able to see clearly. You have to be able to, and you can't see clearly in the darkness. There's a social darkness, an emotional darkness. We've got to let people understand that. Let people begin to talk about on the platforms that we have. Let's begin to talk about how not to allow poverty to be normalized, not to allow substandard living to be normalized. Let's take the covers off that. Let's and change the narrative. The narrative that we are currently engaged in all around the country is the narrative that keeps us locked in. We've got to begin to make it clear to people. Ask these questions. What kind of world do you want? What kind of world do you want? Do you want a world where the only food that is available to you is fast food? If that's not even real food, is that the kind of a world you want? Is that the kind of a community you want? If you say, no, I don't want a community where there's where I live in a food desert, then we begin to look at strategies and people who are addressing changing the condition. But change the narrative. Let's point out that what is necessary is that we change the condition of our people. That we're not well served by social welfare programs only. Understand, when people are in a bind, you need to address that. But our problem is that we address that and stop there as though that is the solution. And certainly there are people who appreciate getting turkeys from celebrities, basketball players, people on Christmas and Thanksgiving. There are people who appreciate getting turkeys. There are people who appreciate getting groceries from the food bank, and that really helped in the community. We have to be clear about that. That does help, but the reason it helps is because the people are poor. So the problem is poor. The problem is poverty. How do we change the condition of the poor? And let's understand this. We have the capacity as a people to do so. See, we are still appealing to government for grants and funding, and all of that funding is for not-for-profit initiatives. So if you do get the funding, they'll give you just a little bit less than you really need to succeed. Too much to turn it down, too little to succeed. It's been the strategy forever. You can, but you can't use it to change the condition of the people. You can only use it to administer to the condition. You can't use it for a for-profit venture. You can't start small businesses in the community. You can't create employment in the community. You have to. That funding comes with those kinds of important strings attached. However, we have the money ourselves. See, we really don't even need that money. We are now. Again, see, we can't get confused. We are entitled to it. That money that the government gives back to us, that's our money to begin with. We pay taxes, we pay tolls, we pay all the things that everybody else pays.
Right.
Parking tickets, we pay everything just like everybody else that contributes to the money that the city or the state or the federal government has. That's our money as well, and we are entitled to it. So if there are people who want to go and fight for that money, they should. But what I'm saying is that we understand that this is a government at each level, local, state, federal, that has no intention of allowing that money that is ours, that has to come from them, to be used effectively. So we have to look for alternatives as well so that we can accomplish what we set out to do. And we have to look at the money that we're already spending. With black folks, you know, that, as I pointed out maybe here before, if the statistics point out, the research says that the local McDonald's, or whatever the corner it is in Detroit, there's more than one. Each one of those McDonald's restaurants in the black community in Detroit makes over $12,000 a day.
Oh.
Each one of those, not collectively, each one individually makes over $2.5 million a year. How do they do that if we're so poor?
Yeah, right.
It's black folk buying it. There's no white folks driving into the black community in Detroit
to
to go to McDonald's. They go to the McDonald's in the white community.
Right.
And so, not only is McDonald's making $12,000 a day per store, so is Wendy's and Burger King, all the other folks who have businesses in the black community. See, one of the reasons that the black community remains poor is the money that we do have is not used effectively or strategically or intelligently, so the money pours out of our community. So if we're looking at changing the condition of the people, maybe we need to identify the leaders or the leadership that is talking about using our dollars strategically, that's talking about using our dollars effectively to eliminate poverty in our community. We already have the money. We ain't as poor as we have been led to believe. If you go through black communities and you see dilapidated housing, and the stores that are on the street, barbershops and hair salons and nail salons and bodega kind of grocery stores, you say, whoa, this is how poor people live. No. This is how black folk with money are allowing themselves to be positioned in this social construct. We have enough money in our hand. If you have enough money to spend $12,000 a day, that's every day. If you have enough money to spend $12,000 a day every day in McDonald's, what if you were to use that money differently?
Yes.
What if there was an economic strategy? That's what Claude Anderson is talking about. What if there was an economic strategy that you would stop spending that money? We call for economic withdrawal. Dr. King said we have to use economic withdrawal. We ought to attach that to our direct action. And what we're saying is that even without it being part of a direct action campaign, we need an economic strategy We need an economic code of behavior. We need an economic strategy that we all can participate in. We can change the condition of our people with the money that we already have in our pocket. If black people are poor, you can't prove that by Burger King and Wendy's, and certainly not by McDonald's. You can't prove that by Nike and record companies who are making plenty of money, putting out the stuff that's not even music, the stuff that they put out, and it sells. You know, a buyer in a major department store in Brooklyn, New York, a white woman, told us once we were trying to get a black doll, the Huggy Bean doll, that was being manufactured by some black company, trying to get that doll on the shelf in that department store, Abraham and Strauss. They didn't want to do it. Their clientele was about 90% black at that time. And we said to them, you know, this is a quality product. It really was, and most of your customers are black, and this is manufactured by a black manufacturer. The white woman said, listen, you can leave that part of the argument out. Black people buy whatever we put on the shelf. They don't care if it's made by black folk, white folk, yellow folk, red folk. Black people buy whatever we put on the shelf. Black people make no demands. They don't use their economic leverage at all. And you can see that as the way we have participated in Black Friday, although that's beginning to change.
It's beginning. Well, that's good. It's beginning to change. The issue about the word poverty, I appreciate you saying we have to change the narrative, because here recently there was a presentation to council, and the investors, some, were talking about establishing or setting aside X number of residents for affordability, as you had mentioned early on. And this person who was making the presentation said the people who want to live in that area are not interested in some affordability units, because they said those people, you know, that you people group, who are poor, don't take care of their property, they're nasty, they create crime. So poverty carries a lot of adjectives that are not fair, are not wanted. There are people who are poor, who keep their property clean and neat, but they are trying to change their positions. But they all get lumped into the same pot, and it makes it difficult for them to climb out with the forces against them.
See, one of the things that happens in those neighborhoods is that the city first abandons the neighborhood. So the neighborhood that needs 5-day garbage pickup gets 2 to 3 day garbage pickup. So there's garbage overflowing on the streets and on the street, the containers on the curb. The police are some of the worst police on the police force, rogue policemen who cooperate with the drug dealers and the gangbangers in those neighborhoods. The schools are abandoned, so that the young people come out of school. They drop out of school, they don't finish school, and those who finish have been given an inadequate education. There are a number of other things that contribute to creating the environment in those communities. And in that environment, it is difficult for people to stand up. And so, but the environment is constructed around them. What if we understand that? And so if we say, instead of the public schools damaging our children, people in those communities are going to send their children to independent schools. There are black independent schools all over the country, even in that so-called poor neighborhood. If everybody in that so-called poor neighborhood was to say, every Tuesday is independent school day, with the money that we would have spent on fast food on Tuesday goes to a fund to help operate the independent schools. We don't buy any fast food. We don't buy any garbage on Tuesday. but we will take the money that we ordinarily spend and we'll put it in the education fund because we have that money. Now, with that money, we also have an independent school. There are other people and other families in that community who can afford to pay the tuition and help. So let's start to change the conditions of the people.
Right.
And you know, so it's like when we were doing these manhood training programs, these classes, and we're conducting these manhood training classes, trying to get it started around the country, introducing a new code of behavior into black communities around the country. And that's on a personal level. Now what we need to do is to introduce a new economic code of behavior and introduce that to black communities around the country using what we already have. So, see, but by the time you get somebody who has been, who's lost their sense of hope, and people who have seen, I saw a little boy in a neighborhood where we used to have a store over Vanderbilt Avenue in Brooklyn. You all don't know about Vanderbilt Avenue in Brooklyn. It's real hot right now. It's the center of gentrification.
Wow.
When I first came there was one restaurant. Now there's cafes all up and down the street. And it's booming now.
Wow.
But there was a little boy who lived on that street, and he you know, I don't know, but either he dropped a candy wrapper on the sidewalk or he stepped around, walked by one. And I said, why you do that? You know, he said, I'm not picking that up. That's not my job. You know, I don't pick up garbage. You know, the city's supposed to pick the garbage up, so I'm not doing that. You know, so I said, yeah, but you now know the city won't do it, and this is in front of your house. This is where you live. This is your opportunity to keep your space clean. He said, oh, I ain't thought about like that before. You know, we got to start teaching. That's what I'm saying. Change the narrative.
Yes.
Right.
And start telling people, you know, Jesse was right. You might live in the ghetto, but the ghetto don't have to live in you. You know, just because you live there and the city has abandoned it, that doesn't mean you have to abandon it. Stop spray painting stuff. That graffiti stuff is ugly. That's not art. That's you know, that's part of the trick. That whatever these young people do, rather than let them discover their real voice and discover their real talent and discover what they are capable of, whatever they might do, say, oh, yes, that's wonderful because you're young. Oh, that stuff is garbage. It's scrambled. It's all over the wall. You know, stop spray painting in your own neighborhood. Stop defacing your own where you live. Yes, the city has abandoned this place. It has. But that doesn't mean that you have to abandon it as well. You don't have to accept and cooperate with the city policy. Let's change the narrative. You were created for a higher purpose. Stop acting as though being living in substandard conditions is acceptable. This shouldn't be acceptable to you. It's not acceptable to God. You know, you've got to, you know, to come back to the brother's question, that is it. Change the narrative. Let's start preaching a newer message that is focused on changing the condition. Everybody is not going to buy into it and understand it at the same time or right away, but that's fine. The people, those who do, good. Elijah Muhammad said, start with the believers first. Put the message out. And let the people who are enlightened, let the people whose mind is clear enough hear it, accept it, and start putting some of these strategies to work. And people, everybody's not going to do it, but eventually they will.
Yeah, you know, I would hope that, you know, by example, as you just said, I know I had a neighbor, he was a Mason as well, but I know that Mr. Davis, one of the things he always did, and it affected me, is not only did he keep his home clean, but I would see him up and down the block. Maybe there's an abandoned home or trash somewhere, and he didn't even think twice about going with his garbage can, his broom, and his shovel, cleaning that kind of thing up. And I was glad to see an example like that. I was like in my late teens, but it affected me in terms of being a good example, and it was something that I now as well try to instill in my nieces, nephews, my granddaughter in particular, since I see her more often. But I see that as a good role model. One of the things, and I agree with you as well, Bob, that one of the problems we have is that we can't expect everyone to get on board at the same time. But a good example is always something, just like a bad example. You know, we have choices, but we do have good and bad examples. One of the things I would like to see or hope to see is a cultural awareness or that village awareness as well, because we always speak about the village, but sometimes we don't see ourselves as part of the village. And I noticed another thing. I was driving through Detroit, well, the city here where we're at, and I noticed how our people still have this need, as E. Franklin Frazier said, of conspicuous consumption. So I see the young girls with the crazy long hair, eyelashes, and such, and it seems like we are in need of attention so much, which is why Nike and some of these other people who manufacture things, they're able to sell us their products because in order to feel some sort of self-esteem about ourselves, we invest, unfortunately, and as you said, we do have the money, we invest, unfortunately, in things that we hope will appeal to someone else without looking within. But I would hope that we could develop a cultural awareness, and particularly now since we're in this very strong movement, as opposed to a moment, this movement which was generated by the death of George Floyd. I would hope that we can sort of galvanize that energy, not only for the protest for police brutality, et cetera, but also for taking care of home as well.
Absolutely. See, when you see people doing all of those things, faked everything, the eyelashes, hair rather, jewelry, the way that that is a reflection of a serious kind of collective low sense of self-esteem.
Right.
There are people who have been conditioned, and to the point where they have such low self-esteem that they think that the way to increase their personal value is to put on jewelry. You listen to the rap lyrics, they talk about what kind of car they pull up in. To prove that I'm successful and to prove that I'm important, I'm somebody. I pull up in a Lamborghini, I pull up in a Ferrari, I pull up. See, they think that those things increase their human value. There are people who have such low self-esteem that they think that fake hair, eyelashes is necessary to make them beautiful, and that that is what it will take to increase their human value. That's how they have been conditioned. They have that, and like one of the mistakes that I believe black folk made was when they began to talk about the Obama family, the Michelle and Barack Obama, as being unique black people. You know, they were such a perfect couple. They were such unique black people. So a great many black people looked at them and said, well, I appreciate them, I'm glad for them, but I can never be them. You know, young girls didn't try to emulate Michelle Obama. No, but young girls didn't try to look like Michelle Obama. They tried to look like Beyonce and the other women who were strippers. They said, well, see, those strippers, I can be that. But this woman here, this is a college grad and this and that, and he's a college grad, and they got all of this and that, how unique and special they were. It wasn't encouraging for young people living in the hood. It wasn't encouraging. I can be wealthy, and if I can get my young people, all of them, saying if I can get my brand out, didn't know anything about the millinery industry, business, management, nothing. They just heard these rappers talk about having a brand, and I can get my brand out. I can make a lot of money. They thought that was what was necessary to increase their value. See, if we can teach them differently. Back in the 60s, there was a group of women called the Grandessa Models. The Grandessa Models are the women who came from an organization called the African Jazz Art Society, called it AJAZ. And the Grandessa Models were the people who made popular natural hair. And they would do fashion shows, and they would do we printed posters and magazine covers and with pictures of the Grandessa models, and made it clear to people that this is your natural beauty. And people used to call it an afro, and the Grandessa models would say, this is not an afro, this is a natural. Afro
right.
is a trend. Afro is a
That's
popular
right.
trend at the moment. This is not a trend, this is your natural beauty. Let's go back to promoting and talking about natural beauty, and we appreciate and applaud natural beauty. We've got to, again, change the narrative to help raise the self-esteem. But that's the reason, and everybody kind of understands that now. That's the reason that these companies are able to sell us anything. And as they say, we spend more money on everything than everybody else. It's not that we eat junk food. Everybody in the country eats junk food. It's not just that we eat junk food. We eat far more junk food than any other ethnic group in the country. And that's true of everything. It's what the industry calls index. We over-index on everything. Index is the percentage that you would hope that the manufacturer hopes to sell. And if they could sell 80% of the product, then they were successful. If they can sell 95% of the product, that's successful. If they can, black people over-index. If the index was 80, the manufacturer's hoping to sell 80% of the product, black people will buy 110%. We over-index on everything: soap, rice, bread, everything, potato chips, everything. As you point out, brother, conspicuous consumers. But one of the reasons that we are conspicuous consumers is because where we are equal, where we are free and equal, is at the checkout counter. So we go to the checkout counter to demonstrate how free and equal we are. Okay. We go to the checkout counter to enjoy an instant of freedom. And we can outspend. We can come into the store. We can go into any store and outspend anybody in the store. And that's what we do to show that we have arrived in this society. And there's a lot involved on an emotional level, and that's why I'm saying that it is important to change how we talk to each other and what we talk about. We got to come out of the darkness. See, and we got to understand these movements. These young people in the street, see, that they are creating a climate for change. No one has stepped up to articulate what the change should be. We have created a climate for change, but that movement is at least trying to get us out of the darkness. And we understand, again, coming back to the top of the conversation, what's at stake in this election is an opportunity to come out of the darkness. If we don't come out of the darkness, it's going to get worse and worse. It can only get worse. It can only get worse. Look at these preachers. Let me show you the darkness. Look at these preachers, black and white evangelicals, who met with Donald Trump's people. And they told them, as I said, they according to Reverend Schneck, who was in the meeting, they told them, we'll give you your political wish list. But what we want from you is we want you to wrap Trump in wrap him in religion. Say that he's of God. And then we want you to preach anger and fear. They said that the more anger and fear you preach, the more money we can raise. We can raise money based on people being scared and angry. We can raise money. So to keep raising this money, we need you to preach anger and fear. So the preacher said, okay. The preacher said, okay to that. So they made a deal with the devil. Now, now these are Christian preachers. So I'm using a Christian reference. These are Christian preachers. Everybody, go. If you get a Bible, go to Matthew 4. I believe it's Matthew 4 and 9, from 9 to 11. In Matthew 4, the devil took Christ up on a high mountain and he said, let me show you the kingdoms of the world. Let me show you, and I can give you all of this. I can give you your wish list. That's what Trump's people said to these black and white preachers. I can show you and he said, what I want you to do is just kneel before me. Devil trying to work out an alliance, a partnership with Christ, and said, just kneel to me, and you can have all of this. And this is the Christ that these preachers say they represent. And Christ told him, get ye behind me. Get out of here. Get away from me. That you can't tempt God. I don't make deals with the devil. That same devil had said, throw yourself off this mountain, because if you are truly the Son of God, then the angels will come and pick you up, because you are not to be harmed. That's what he said. You can't bargain with me. You can't tempt me. You can get away from me. These preachers, these evangelical preachers, who are fake preachers, fake men of God. They are fake men of God. They're not of God. Because when you look at the scripture that they say is their theology that guides their behavior, when confronted by the devil, who said, I'll give you what you want, Christ said, get away from me. These preachers said, okay.
Wow. The evangelicals.
And if you keep following these guys, you stay in the dark.
It's interesting also, when you mention scripture, I remember there's a couple, one in which it says, my spirit will not always strive with man, for he is made of flesh. And it made me also think about how during George W. Bush's term in office, that he also was able to galvanize the evangelicals and then giving them just crumbs, basically. But I know the congregations of the church have fallen off in the last decade or so because the children and the whole religious climate has changed. But I do know that George W. Bush, that is, was doing the same thing that 45 is doing right now. And somehow or another, and I've noticed this in churches, which is why I think people have kind of gotten away from it, is that people have gotten into the mindset of having, and if they can find it, whether it's from a political source, from a business source or something, they're ready to sell out their religion or their beliefs. They pick certain scriptures that only will bolster the position that they're in. And even the flock and the congregation are realizing now, which is why the congregations are diminishing, that they are not legitimate in terms of leaders in the community or in the world or in the nation as it is. I would also add that I would hope, and I know you've seen this in New York, and I'm sure it happens all over the country. There was a time, let's say pre-COVID, where you would see people, particularly on abandoned buildings, if there was a new movie coming out, Mission Impossible, whatever, they would have these maybe 4 foot by 6 foot posters that they would just plaster on certain buildings. I would hope that, and that is, as Theo has said to me many times, that I like it. I have on a Hood Research t-shirt, by the way, but those are like billboards. So if we could, sometimes you can't reach a person by talking to them because they're resistant to change, but sometimes a display like that will make them think, maybe on a conscious and then later on a subconscious level that I should be doing better, as you say, coming out of the darkness. This is something that really troubles me. I'm blessed to have been conscious when I was in my late teens, and I've carried that throughout my life. But sometimes approaching people, they resist change, and I think sometimes if we can give it to them, as Theo has also said, subliminal seduction, we give them something that they don't even realize they're getting the medicine until it starts to take effect. But I would love that as an approach.
Yeah.
Theo said that, huh?
Yes.
But when you talk about those posters, again, they put, you'll see billboards for the upcoming movie, all up over the community, even in the poor community. The billboards are in the hood. Billboards are on the sides of buses
Right.
whose bus route goes through the black communities, goes through poor communities. The reason that they advertise like that is because they know that there are dollars in that community that are available to them. They don't buy into the notion that black people are poor. They know that the money is already there, and they keep coming with strategies to continue to take the money out of our community. Malcolm pointed that out back in the 60s, so that the money leaves the community when the sun goes down. The people who operate the stores in the black community close the stores at nighttime and go back home to their community. It's not people, the black people who live in the community don't own and operate those stores. And that's been the case for all of our lives. Malcolm pointed that out. He said the money leaves town when the sun goes down. And it still does. But we know that now. But the adversary struggles back against our waking up. See, the adversary struggles back, and as you said, they put posters and ideas and things out promoting a different value system. They interview black people on television, and they make a point to avoid certain black people who have a history of leadership and work in the community. So with all of the work that Hakeem Adabuti has done in Chicago with his Third World Press and his independent school, and he's not one of the people, Maulana Karinga, Sonia Sanchez, any number of people who've been out here doing some work for years, whether you agree with all the work they're doing or not. There's Dr. Ron Daniels, other people, Leonard Dunstan from the black social workers. People have been out here and doing the work. As you look at television, and they bring in black people on to talk about what's going on in the black community or what's going on in the world, they never bring any of the people with a track record. They never bring any of the people who have credibility within the community. Bring people we never heard of. And they talk all kind of stuff. We don't know what they're talking about. Then this whole idea of self-determination. As long as you don't talk about self-determination, so they say we're all in this together. And that is the narrative. We're all in this together.
Right.
And so we have to find ways to get along and find ways to love each other and find ways to work together. That's fine. However, we're all in this together, but we're not all coming out of it together. The reopening of cities, for instance, doesn't address the reopening of the black community. When we reopen the cities, and the children are going to go back to school carefully and strategically, little by little. However, in the black community, those schools are not worth going back to begin with. And so we're not talking about changing the curriculum and instruction. We're leaving the condition as it is. In the white community, the schools are in excellent conditions, both on the level of curriculum and instruction. The environment is better. In the black community, the environment is dangerous. The curriculum is pitiful. The instruction is absent. But we're not talking about changing that as we reopen the schools. So we're in it together, but we're not coming out of it together. We got to just make that part clear. I'm running out of time. But it is actually, I have run out of time.
Well, we definitely are going to have to continue making this point about changing the narrative, about helping people out of poverty rather than servicing them to keep them in poverty. And our attitudes towards our spending habits definitely need to change, as we also see billboards and listen to the lyrics on some of these songs that are on the radio and blasting out of folks' cars these days. And I do believe sincerely that that is making a difference in our community when we begin to respect ourselves and our neighbors and those around us and work together to help us all make a better quality community and to help us all get out of this pandemic, because we got to deal with this next time, have a racism pandemic going on too.
Oh, yeah. And see, just everybody keep in mind, we have the capacity to do all of this. See, black people have been told that we are poor and pitiful. And so we're waiting for somebody to do for us what we are capable of doing ourselves. And we do understand that we are entitled to the government support that many of our people are struggling for. That's our money. And if we can get grants from the government, that's fine. However, we cannot continue to invest only in getting grants from the government or expecting the government to do what it should do in responding to the condition of black people in this country.
And I just
They're not going to do it.
And I just want to say,
And in some cases, we force them, and we get some things done. But what I'm saying is, in addition, that should not be the whole struggle. That in addition to those petitioning the government, we have to begin to petition ourselves. We have to use our own capacity. And if we use our own capacity, I'm telling you, if we were to start a movement for calling for independent schools, we've created a fund that people can contribute to, and to help with independent schools. If we could create a movement, if we can change the narrative, start talking about how important independent schools are, bring some people on who run independent schools and compare their curriculum to the curriculum in the public schools. I know an independent school that we have here in New York, the Sister Nicole Muhammad, she's got Nicole Bailey Muhammad, she has an independent school. They've got a filmmaking class. They've got
students.
You don't have no filmmaking class in the public schools. Where these children are learn. They present a little mini film festival every year with the films that the children have made.
Right.
You don't get that in the public schools. And they speak 3 or 4 languages. They speak English and Arabic. They learn how to sign language. You don't get that in the public schools. Compare the curriculum. Compare the students. If we could do that, and let's start talking about independent schools and how powerful and how important they are. If we could do that, the public schools will get better, because the adversary, white supremacy, doesn't want us to give up, doesn't want to have to give up controlling our children. They'll try to make some improvements in order to attract parents and keep children in the school system.
So that they can brainwash them.
Their intention is to do harm intellectually to children coming up in the black community. But we don't have to accept all of this, tolerate all of this. We don't have to live with all of this. And if we stop talking to other people, see, we have a lot of people who are talking on behalf of black people, and they're talking to the white community on behalf of black people. But we don't have anybody anymore. Well, we do. We got Minister Farrakhan is one of the people who's still talking to black people. Malcolm talked to black people. He was not trying to convince white people how human we are. And there are others that are talking to black people. Maulana is still talking to black people. And that's what we really need.
I want to use your words, Bob, and say what you used to say back in the 90s on Night Talk, as I said on earlier conversations we've had. It was a phrase that you always use for callers, and I just want to say this to you, too. I respect you. That was the first thing that usually came on before you allowed the callers to speak. And I respect you, and I appreciate you as well, brother.
All right, now, thank you so much. I got to go right now.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much for being with us. We will be in touch, and you shall return.
Okay, all right.
Therefore, okay. All right. You have just heard a wonderful presentation by Bob Law, the man of the hour, the man I call the godfather of talk radio. And he was broadcasting from New York, where he was just speaking to you. And he would come every night. And it was just such an enjoyable time. And he was on late night. The name of his show was Night Talk. And it stayed on to the wee hours of the morning. But we stayed with him, you know, and are still with him today. Man, thank you for staying to listen to that. We got to take a station break, and we shall be back momentarily.
Stay tuned.
You're watching WHPS, Highland Park, Detroit.
Hi, this is Theo Broughton, president of Barton McFarland Neighborhood Association. Someone asked me, what is a census? A census is a project put on by the federal government to determine the number of people living in any particular municipality. You count, we count, and it's time for us to be counted so that we can receive the allocation of federal tax dollars that we have sent to Washington, D.C. over the past 10 years. Those tax dollars are to be used for education, for health, and perhaps there will be some money even for us to fix the damn roads. If you have not found your mailer, please know that you can call the Federal Census Bureau at 1-844-330-2020. Again, that's 1-844-330-2020 for all of the help you will need. Peace.
I've always been a runner, but I've never run from anything, and neither has my city.
Do you want to be a Detroit police officer?
Sir, yes, sir! Up!
Amen!
It's something special to protect the people closest to you, the ones you've known all your life, your neighbors, your friends. I was born in this city, and I'm not going anywhere. This is my home. That's why I wear the shield.
This is Bruce Simpson, your City of Detroit Ombudsman. I am here to address all of your complaints and concerns. If you need assistance regarding city services, please contact my office at 313-224-6000 or contact us via email at ombudsman@detroitmi.gov. This is Bruce Simpson, your City of Detroit Ombudsman.
Now you can catch all of your favorite talk and music on WHPR 88.1 FM, TV 33, and WVIE Virgin Islands FM 107.3 on Google Home and Amazon Alexa. Alexa, open FM Detroit. Alexa, open TV Detroit. Alexa, open FM Virgin Islands. Take command. Get the talk and music you crave on all of your connected devices. Find out how. Go to watkinsbroadcasting.com.
The environment is so friendly. Always feel like home.
We have so much support from the staff. You meet people who are like you.
I always had a passion to help others, so this is the perfect place for me.
You're not afraid to reach out. Flora Kiwang, Cameroon.
Maklit Shonga, Ethiopia.
Javed Khan, Bangladesh.
Dennis Kerr, Bosnia and Herzegovina.
It gives you what you need for the future.
We at Watkins Broadcasting care about the health and safety of our viewers and listeners. During this novel coronavirus pandemic, please protect yourself and others. Wash your hands well and often. Avoid touching your face. Cough and sneeze into your sleeve. Practice social distancing. Stay at least 6 feet away from others when in public and only leave the house when it's essential. Stay safe. You are important to us.
Feedback. Hi, this is Theo Broughton.
And I am Thabiti Mpinga.
Inviting you to join us each Monday at 9 a.m. for Feedback.
A positive image production by Hood Research.
Encourage others to tune in each Monday on
Comcast Detroit, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, watch WHPR TV Network anywhere.
And take us along with you. Feedback.
All right, and we're back. Thank you so much for staying tuned to Feedback, a positive image production by Hood Research. My name is Theo Broden, co-founder of Hood Research, and my co-host,
Thabiti, and we welcome you to the continuation of our program.
And I hope that you had time to get pen and paper, because I want you to know that during this pandemic, we are having meetings on Saturdays at 2 p.m. so that you don't have to leave the comfort of your home. You don't have to leave the comfort of that easy chair, that lounge chair, that bed that you're laying in, to be on board with Hood Research. The telephone numbers for Saturday at 2 p.m. are as follows. You dial 1, then 978, and the number is 990-5000. It rings, and when it answers, you put in the access code, and the access code is 338729, and that little tic-tac-toe sign, you know, the pound sign, and you'll hear us talking. So look forward for that this coming Saturday, and let others know that they too can join us on Saturday afternoons at 2 o'clock. And you'll hear candidates and others with their input and their questions. And you, when a candidate is on, can ask your own question. Now, we have a caller?
Yes. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Would you share your name and how you're viewing us, please?
My goodness.
Hello?
You okay?
Oh, they hung up.
Okay. So anyway, we want you to also know that Hood Research is 28 years old this year, and we're an organization that believes that people would do better if they knew better. We encourage you to join Hood Research. The fee for a year is $20. Lifetime amount is $300. We do a number of activities that you might want to participate in, and also encourage others to participate with you. You know, we just listened to Bob Lawn. He talked about using your money wisely, spending it wisely, and where you spend it definitely makes a difference. The statement has been made before that 95% of our community's money is spent outside of the community. There are those who claim they cannot find what they're looking for in their community, and that's the reason why they go out. Well, we maintain that sometimes it takes a few minutes to research, to search, to look for, to ask your friends and others, hey, do you know where I can buy whatever it happens to be? And that makes a difference, and it would make a difference for our community as well.
You know, I would add to that one of the things when we start looking outside of our communities, a lot of times what we're looking for, as Bob said, are things that we don't need anyway, like the Nikes, like the Nautica, going to Nordstrom. I mean, it's nice to have those things, but if we need those things for self-esteem, then we're really, and then those things are, they're transient in terms of their value. They have value only up to a certain point of time, and then you have to, because fads, trends, et cetera, change, you have to constantly upgrade or update whatever it is you're doing, and which means that you're constantly reinvesting in something that has no value other than what it does for what your, as Bob said, lack of self-esteem. So we have to make it a point there's an expression I've always liked. It says, some people know the price of everything and the value of nothing. And that's kind of where we're at. You know, we know that, you know, these Nike shoes run $200, $300, $400, $500, but we don't know anything about value, and we're not getting any real value. And when I've seen things in the past, which has always caught my attention, is when you look at how much it costs to manufacture that product, and then you look at the markup on it, you know, so it may cost them $10 to make those Nike shoes when you look at all the components and materials used, but they turn right around and sell those shoes for $200 or $300, $400. And you have to rationalize, if you can, is this really worth it? Or when they put sequins or they put I forgot the rhinestones, etc., on clothes, which you could do yourself. My sisters were doing that back when they were teens and pre-teens. They were doing that. And as a matter of fact, the beauty of what they did was that what they created was unique. They didn't wait for someone to establish that this has value and then everybody else wants to get it. They came up because of an individualistic mindset, say, look, I'm going to make my own. We did that with the cornrows and the braiding our hair, and then what do we have? Bo Derek and everybody else.
Oh yes, I remember that. And like all of a sudden, she was like the queen of braids or something. Like what?
And there's an expression that we couldn't get into everything what Bob was speaking about, but one of the expressions that he used to say, and I loved it as well. He says, "They hate us because they ain't us."
Oh. They hate us because they ain't us. Now that's very interesting. That's a good one. That's a good one. But you know, speaking about natural hair, he did mention that the sharpest natural I admired was on James Brown. He when he went through a lot of phases, of course, but when he wore his hair in a natural style, it just really looked good on him. Yeah.
And it was imitated, which is another thing that our stars do, or celebrities do. We want to exalt those who will stay within the culture because they influence the culture as well. Our culture, American culture, has influenced the world, really. The American black culture dominates the world. We don't see people imitating people from South America, the African continent, Europe, or Asia. You know, whatever influence they have, we still dominate the world in terms of our appearance, in terms of our music, our art, our thoughts. But the only thing we don't dominate in when it comes to, as Bob said, economic strategy, we seem to fall very short on that.
So I think that it will be incumbent upon us here at WHBR or Feedback to share that kind of information in between the times that Bob Locke comes on with us to remind us of the changing of the narrative. I think that's extremely important.
And one thing, Theo, we've got about 20 minutes, so we've got time, but I was going to say, if you would share with people the voting locations. I know that you're familiar with a few more of them, and let people know, because I will be visiting this week. I'm not taking a chance mailing any absentee ballot in, because the mail, and I talked with a postal employee yesterday, as a matter of fact, they say things are pathetically slow where they're working at, so we don't really want to put ourselves in a position.
Right.
I mean, and we're not blaming the post office. We know that 45 has a hand in it. We know that people are sick there as well because of the COVID-19, but if you just share with them the...
Sure. Well, first I just want to let you know that the president does not let well enough alone. He dabbles in it to make it worse. It has been said that he's psychopathic, and I think there may be some truth to that. And being that way, it makes a person not care if you die. If you die, that's tough luck. That's the kind of attitude that a psychopath would have. And further saying, oh, I'm glad people are dying. How many more are going to be? Somebody come and tell me how many died today. The next day, how many died yesterday? How many died, you know? So anyway, with that kind of attitude, and so far 7 calls being made to the Russian Putin, the president has replaced the Postmaster General. He has replaced the Postmaster
that.
General. And in addition, has told the Postmaster General to slow down the mail. That's been reported also. Now, with all of that going on, and knowing that the primary election day is Tuesday, August the 4th, not tomorrow, but 1 week from tomorrow, Tuesday, August the 4th, that does not give you enough time to call the Election Commission. Tell them you want an application, then have them mail an application to you. You fill out your ballot, give it to the postman or woman, and get it back to the post office where they've already been told to slow down the mail and have it sit there and perhaps never get to the end of the day's point where your ballot can be counted. Therefore, I want you to know that we have 7 satellite offices. I hope you still have your pen and paper. 7 satellite offices. We've had 2 in the past, satellite offices, that is. One that is Wayne County Community College Northwest Campus, and it's located on Outer Drive at the Southfield Freeway. And we've had one in the Eastern Campus of Wayne County Community College. That's on the east side of the city, on Connor at I-94 Freeway. The I-94 Freeway. The landmark is a city airport. It's now known as the Coleman Young International Airport. But the Eastern Campus of Wayne County Community College, across from the airport, I-94 in Connor, is what has been the second satellite. Now there's a third satellite, which is the recreation center that's on East 7 Mile at Mound Road. East 7 Mile at Mound Road.
Farwell.
Farwell, that's right. Farwell Community Center. Farwell Community Centers on East 7 Mile at Mound Road. Then there's another satellite office, which is downtown Wayne County Community main center, which is at 1001 4th Street. That's right down from the main post office. That's the Wayne County Community College Central Building, 1001 West 4th Street, down from the main post office. Then 5, you can also go as early satellite office. That means early voting for anyone who is not clear on when I talk about a satellite office. That's where you can go and vote now. And that's Northwest Activity Center. Northwest Activity Center, located on Myers between McNichols and 7 Mile. McNichols and 6 Mile is the same street. Then there's another our satellite office where you can go vote, which is a Butzel Community Center. Butzel Community Center is on Myers, or just a little east of Myers, on Linden Street. Linden, just a little east of Myers. Then the last satellite, well, is really the main office, and that is the clerk's office on West Grand Boulevard, diagonally across from the Fisher Building. The last satellite office is the city clerk's office on West Grand Boulevard, diagonally across from the Fisher Building.
And I would add the phone number for the city clerk. Thanks to Theo, I've learned so many things. Is area code 313-876-0190. Again, that's area code 313-876-0190. 760190.
And follow the prompts, not difficult at all. And the voting ability, I'm told, starts at 9 o'clock in the morning. So I would say anywhere between 9 and 4, you can go to those satellite offices and do your ballot right there, and it's in a secured location, and we don't have to be concerned or afraid that the post office has your ballot in a bag somewhere sitting in a corner in the dark.
Yeah, we can't afford to have that happen. I've had people within my family have me help them to fill out their ballots, because in some cases they're really just, and I understand it too, they're hardworking people, and they're not as politically aware of some of the candidates that are going. I, of course, indicated, as we said in prior programs, that vote no on all proposals. And from my understanding, there's going to be a proposal in which is dealing with the bonds. Now, somebody said that N is subject because we think of the N word, and that's enough of a reason to vote no. If
You got that right. That particular proposal was approved by the City Council to be on the ballot in November.
Okay, I wasn't sure about that.
Yeah, but the three that are on there now are all about taxes. Raise the tax here, raise the tax there. Vote early, so next year, if we have to, we'll already know that we can continue taxing you. Well, the most egregious proposal at this time is the one about the schools, and they tell us, well, don't worry about it if you renting your home. Well, maybe the landlord won't go up. Fat chance. The landlord is an owner, and that proposal says that owners of homes won't have to pay property, but owners of businesses will. Well, guess what? It's my decided opinion that if a person owns an apartment building, he owns property, yes, but it's a business. Therefore, those who are renting will have their rent increased. Then there are other businesses, like those who sell oranges and milk and bread and brooms and etc. That's a business. Well, the business owner looks at that and says, well, I was hoping for a break, not to have to pay again. But since it says the businesses will pay, I have to increase my product items.
I can give you a good example, too. Just what Bob was saying in the last hour, he was saying that individual McDonald's are making $12,000 a day. Okay, so if they're responsible for helping to fund this bond proposal, they're going to, and they want to make that $12,000 a day. Now, if they're paying those taxes, then that means they're not going to make that $12,000 a day. So how do they balance it? Well, they increase the price of the Big Mac or the Quarter Pounder so they can still get that $12,000 or more a day.
And, you know, it's sad that people just don't add up the figures. You know, Rowan and Martin do a news together, and Rowan, I heard talk about this stimulus check, and people who have applied for unemployment are getting a check. And the Republicans are complaining about that. They said if a person is getting a $600 check a month, and can't, a week.
Yes.
And he's not working. That's free money. Well, one is not free money. And two, if he was working and he got a reasonable hourly pay, they talk about this $15 an hour is today's fair wage. However, every time you turn around, you've got the cost of living going up. So if the cost of living is going up, then $15 an hour is not continuing to be accurate. They've been fighting for that for quite a long time. I say when they get it, it'll be time for another raise. So the senators do not want those who are receiving their $600 a week to continue because they're saying that makes them not want to work. Oh, no, I don't believe that. Okay, next.
Hello, caller. You're on the air. Would you share your name and how you're viewing us, please?
Hi, this is Tawana Morris, and
thanks,
I'm hearing you on Channel 90, and I'm enjoying this show. I just wanted to give everybody an update about how wonderful the Motor City bike ride that we had, motorcycle ride. It was awesome. It was awesome. Isaac Robinson was up under Hood Research, and Morris Hood was up under Hood Research, and they flew high with all of the motorcycle groups. It was beautiful. The police safe ride, all of the motorcycle groups are talking about it. And how
wonderful.
Peaceful. Maureen Taylor got up and talked about the census, how important the census was. She talked about unity, how important unity was. And if we resolve our own situations, we don't have to have the police come. If we do it ourselves in the name of peace and love.
That's
it was
right.
awesome.
Oh,
the balloons
wonderful.
was awesome.
Oh,
and it ended late in the night when I got back there, about 11 o'clock. It was still peaceful, a beautiful ride. And I thank the Detroit Police Department, Lieutenant Jackson, Sergeant Neal. I mean, the motorcycle groups were so impressed. They're talking about it. They're going to be talking about it today.
Okay.
It was beautiful and peaceful.
That is wonderful. I hope that we may be able to do one again, perhaps before November, But we are at the end of our time now, and I thank you so much for calling in to share that. That's important. That's helping to change the narrative. And I want to let everyone know that it's not necessary for you to know everything. What is necessary is for you to know how to find what you need when you need it. And we at Hood Research and go out and we glean as much information as we can to share with you and encourage you to share with us to help us all make better informed decisions. Google Hood Research on the internet and follow us on Twitter. Thanks for tuning in, Tafiti.
And as I always say, if you want to be nothing, do nothing. But the only problem with doing nothing is you never know when you're finished.
All right. Tune in again next week. Peace. Feedback. Hi, this is Theo Broughton.
And I am Thabiti Mpinda.
Inviting you to join us each Monday at 9 a.m. for Feedback.
A positive image production by Hood Research.
Encourage others to tune in each Monday on
Comcast Detroit, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, watch WHPR TV Network anywhere.
And take us along with you. Feedback.